Okay, so I think this is probably going to be the most intense video that I've ever shot, but here we go. So 6 weeks ago, I was at total rock bottom. Failed business, had to let my team go, over $200,000 of debt left over, homeless, carless, and then break up. And at the time, I shot a 4-part video series, basically demonstrating the process that I was going to use to move through it, to get myself out of it and begin creating momentum on the other side. And since then, 3 weeks ago, I started having panic attacks, and I've basically been facing and reliving the most pain that I've ever felt in my entire life. So it's been fairly savage, would probably be a bit of an understatement. And the point of this video is to do two things. So number one, I'm going to share with you the results of actually using the process that I laid out in the last 4 videos, show you what's possible, show you what I've done, and show you that the process actually works. And second of all, which is what the bulk of this video is about, is to show you, first of all, why there is so much pain. Second of all, how you can harness and use that pain, particularly if you are going through an extremely difficult time at the moment as well, and really help you understand what is the core root of this pain, what are the beliefs and fears that are driving it, and how can you isolate them, identify them, and then reframe them once and for all so that you're freeing yourself from them. Because these things operate in our subconscious without us knowing about it. And I've pulled out 8 so far, which I'll share with you during this video, that have been running the show for the best part of 3 decades without me even knowing about it. And I'm sharing this with you so that you can hopefully do the same. Now, I started shooting these rock bottom videos with the intention of basically being completely transparent, so that if you're watching this and you are going through a difficult time as well, this was giving you the real, honest, brutal truth of what it does take to get through this, but to help you if you are in this space and you are going through the same kind of things as well, to know that it is possible, to show you from example that you can get out the other side, you will get out the other side. And I think the best way to do this is to be totally honest about what it does take, and not shoot some after the fact sugar coated version like, oh yeah, I had a difficult time once and here's what I did and at the moment I'm successful. And you get the point. Like, that's a lot of the videos that you'll see online. It's like you'll hear the things of, oh, your failures are your greatest assets and the tough times are what shape you. And that is true, but it's hard to relate to that and connect with that when you're actually going through it, and the person that you're watching who's telling you this is like they're successful again and they're living life and blah blah blah. Like, I want to show you the real, what it actually takes. That's the point of shooting these videos. So let's start first of all with the results. Now, as I say, 6 weeks ago, shot the rock bottom videos, and I laid out the process of, number one, acknowledging and understanding where you're at right now. Number two, developing a clear idea of where you want to get to. Number three, beginning to create goals and a strategy that is going to drive you towards getting there. Number four, developing the right habits and daily method of operation that is going to enable you to execute on those goals every day. And then number five, simply executing and taking action. Right? That was the process I laid out. So I'm going to whiz through the results now of following this process for the last 6 weeks so that you can see that the strategy behind it does actually work. Number one, I've managed to halve the $200,000 debt that I had outstanding from the failed company, which has been a massive weight off my shoulders. Number two, I've managed to find places to live in London between now and the start of next year, bar like 2 tiny gaps of a few days, which I'm sure I'll figure out. Number three, I've developed a new B2B offer targeting 6 and 7 figure companies. Number four, I've launched that offer, won 2 B2B clients. Number five, I have now already developed new sales and marketing strategies and launched campaign funnels for both of these businesses with paid marketing campaigns. I have slung together a basic website for the new direction that I'm going in. I'm not going to share you with it yet because it's it's not optimized. The load speed's rubbish. It's currently horseshit, but it's more of like a placeholder for the direction that I think things are going moving forwards. Number whatever we're on, figured out a backbone for a new content strategy focused around giving back, providing value, sharing the knowledge in my brain, which is one of the things that I want to do moving forwards with you guys. Whatever number we're on, smashed all my habits for the last 6 weeks. So workouts, meditation, journaling, gratitude, all the good stuff, which definitely helps get through these tricky times. And then finally, began to put together a plan of action regarding giving back and helping from a charitable angle, basically use the profits from the stuff that I'm doing now to start making a difference, making an impact. And I'm going to be in Bali for Q1 of next year. And one of the things that I want to start doing first of all out there is looking at ways to contribute to the locals, to the island, and actually provide value as a result of being there, because Bali's somewhere that, you know, it relies on tourism, but there's a massive burden that's put on the island, both ecologically, environmentally, and also from the perspective of like the resources that are available. So I want to try and look at ways of doing more, you know, things like conscious traveling and creating impact and giving back where you are. And basically that's now a work in progress, which is something that I'm really quite excited about, because I think giving back is so important. So the process works. If you're at rock bottom, if you're going through a really shit time and you want the strategy that's going to get you out, then click the link at the top corner of this video. One of these corners, I think, is that one. And that's going to take you to the video series that I shot previously, which will show you the strategy. But it has been far from easy. As I say, 3 weeks ago, I started getting panic attacks, and I've had to relive the most pain that I've ever felt in my entire life. Now, the reason being is that when you're going through rock bottom, it's what it essentially does is your entire reality, so all the security, stability, and certainty that you have in your life, things like home, financial income, business, you know, anything that forms, let's say, the core backbone of your life, when all of these things just get wiped out and taken away all at once, your reality essentially crumbles, and you end up just free falling into complete uncertainty with no security, no stability. And you end up bringing up a lot of like deep, dark fears and beliefs and things from, you know, a lot of the traumatic experiences that we've gone through in our life. They all start coming up at once. And this kind of creates a snowball effect, because the more that you get, you know, you pull up all of this stuff, the more that it starts to hit other things inside you that you didn't know about, and it just becomes like this massive self-fulfilling monstrous snowball of trauma and pain and so on and so forth that just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So it's like it's exponential. You know, once you start free falling, it's kind of hard to stop until you've hit everything. So one of my close friends, Cordelia, she explained a concept to her daughter, which is a beautiful way of explaining exactly what we're talking about here. And she said that as we go through life, there'll be times where people hurt us or things happen that hurt us, and we develop these emotional traumas. And these traumas are basically like thorns. So they're thorns that, imagine like thorns going under your skin, and your skin will heal, you will get better, but the thorns will often stay there under the skin. And then as we go through life moving forwards, there'll be times where people say things or people do things or things happen, and they press on those thorns under our skin, and they still hurt. And so what we do is we learn to adjust, learn to compensate. We sit a bit differently, we hold ourselves a bit differently, we protect ourselves to make sure we don't get hurt. And we basically go through life in a way that is different. We're changed because of these thorns, because every time we get near them, we start pressing against them, it hurts and we pull away, right? So we essentially become restricted and limited gradually over time in the way that we are and the way that we hold ourselves, just so that we don't press on these thorns. And when I heard her say this explanation, I was like, okay, this is absolutely perfect as a way of looking at things, because if we realize that there's something you want in your life, right? So let's take the example of I'll probably use a couple of examples through this, maybe relationships and let's say career and business, right? Two very relatable things. So let's say that from a relationship perspective, you say, I want to have a loving, trusting relationship, completely honest, with somebody who is like my life partner. Right? That's what I want. But let's say that we've been hurt in the past. We trusted someone. You know, it doesn't have to be a relationship. It's someone significant in our lives, and that has caused a thorn, essentially a core belief, a thorn inside of us, where we've decided that when we trust people, they leave, or if we trust people who we care about, it will hurt too much when they leave, or whatever that thorn is, right? Now, if we want to get the result that we want, which is a trusting relationship with someone super important to us, a life partner, but there's a thorn in between where we are and where we want to get to. And that thorn is around the belief of when we trust people we leave, we're going to be unable to bridge the gap, right? So think of it like this little graphic here. Now, if it's a small thorn, right, so not a major life event, then sometimes we can get around it. We can kind of compensate a bit, or if the other person's understanding enough, you can get around it without having to face it. But every now and then we're gonna come up against one of the big thorns, one of the big bastards that is formed from the deepest traumas of our life. So me, for example, my parents split up when I was 7-year-old kid, and a lot of my stuff that has been coming up throughout this rock bottom period has related directly to that. It's fears and beliefs that were formed at that point, that time in my life. And a lot of the time it is the stuff when we're that kind of age, like that's when we build our model of the world. And especially if we experienced pain during that, that young period of our life, it can form these beliefs which are just running the show from behind the scenes without us even realizing that they're there. Okay, so if you get one of these big ones that's directly between where you are and where you want to get to, either in relationship, in business, in career, in wealth, money, finances, all these areas of our life, they're influenced by these things. And the only way to get to the other side is to go through it. And it's one of these things that to face these, these thorns from our past, the deepest fears, the deepest traumas, it's going to take a tremendous amount of courage. It does take a tremendous amount of courage. But if we want what's on the other side, at some point, we have to go through it. And so if you're going through a rock bottom period as well, it's the perfect opportunity to, bravely dig these things out, because they're going to be coming up anyway, and then face them and then reframe them, which is what I'm going to share with you right now. So one of my close friends, Caroline, she has developed a journaling process, and it's based on Byron Katie's work. If you've ever come across Byron Katie, you might recognize a lot of this. But what it's essentially doing is helping you to isolate the core belief that is fueling pain that you're feeling, so that you can find that belief, dig that belief out, reframe it, change it, and then free yourself from it forever. And it's going to take a tremendous amount of courage to go through this process, because you're going to come face to face with everything you've ever done. You're going to come face to face with everyone you've ever hurt. You're going to question whether you're a bad person. You're going to feel more pain. You're going to relive the most pain that you've ever felt in your entire life. And you're going to be digging out your deepest, darkest fears. And it hurts just a monumental amount. But it's absolutely worth it, because again, if you have things that you want in your life that you're not currently getting in relationships, in health, in business, in career, in finances, in whatever, then it's highly likely that there's something that's stopping you getting there, especially if you've been trying to get there already, but you keep coming up against resistance. Okay, that's the clue. For example, if you've been having the same kind of relationships over and over again, and they keep ending in the same sort of way, if it's the same patterns that you're repeating, and it's easier to see this in other people. You hear this all the time, right? Someone, they keep having the same relationship. They keep going for the same girl or the same guy again and again and again. There's something in the way. There's one of these thorns, one of these core beliefs, and every time that they head in that direction towards where they want, they start hitting this belief, coming up against it, but they're not able to go through it because it hurts too much. And every time they get there, they're pulling away, they're moving back, and people develop these subconscious patterns, these coping mechanisms, things like, oh, I'm going to push them away before they can push me away, or things like, oh, if I act a certain way, it's going to mean that I don't feel as strongly about them, and therefore I don't have to face the fact that if I fall in love with them, it's going to hurt too much if they leave. Right? There's all these things that our mind will make us do to stop us going into the place that hurts the most, which is this thorn, these giant thorns. Okay, so that's what this process does. I'm going to share it with you right now. I'm going to share with you the step-by-step of how to go through it. So the way it works is the trigger is you simply go through life and you recognize, you have to become aware of when you feel an emotional reaction to something, right? That's step one. So the emotional reaction could be, someone says something or does something and you get a little pit in your stomach like this, your stomach does that dropping feeling, or a little anxiety flutter in your heart, or you suddenly feel a sense of unease within your body, or anger as well, sadness. It can be any emotional reaction that you feel within your body, typically like heart and stomach. That's where I find they'll tend to happen the most, those two areas. And if you can become attuned to when you feel something based on something someone does, or a thought that you have, something you think, or something that happens, right? When it triggers something, that's essentially the event brushing against one of these thorns, right? You're kind of skirting the surface and it gives you a little, ooh, okay, I felt that. That didn't feel too pleasant. That's step one. And then step two is you begin pulling that thread. What do I mean by that? So the thread is the thing that made you feel that emotional reaction. So let's say someone said, I don't know, oh, you're such an idiot when you do that, or something like that. And it gives you a little, something inside you. That's the beginning of the thread. So you start there. So you would then get a journal, so blank, just blank journal, and you would begin pulling on that thread. You would begin digging into that thread. Now, I'm gonna explain this in just a second. I'm gonna take you through the whole process first, but the digging is the most challenging part. It's also the most important part, and if you get this part right, the rest of it will be easy. Well, I say easy, easy to go through the steps. It's still going to be deeply traumatic if you're doing it right. Okay, so when you dig, eventually you will get to the core belief, and again, I'll explain how to do that in a second. But once you find the core belief, the thing that the big thorn, right, the thing that is at the root of that first little emotion when you brushed up against something, the thing that's at the root, when you find that, you're going to go through the following process to reframe it. So first of all, and this is actually step three, so step three in the process, you're going to write down these 6 statements. I'm just going to pop them up there so you can see them. Write down these 6 statements about the belief. So for example, let me just bare my soul to you even more. Not sharing that one. Okay, so for example, let's say that you've done the digging and you found a core belief. So this will be, I know exactly where this comes from. This will be back from when I was 7 and my parents split up. And the core belief is, I can't bring back the people I care about when they're gone. So the 6 statements that you would write would be, I am X by X because. So for example, I am hurt by so-and-so because, right? Number 2, X should. Number 3, I want X to. Number 4, I need X to. Number 5, I think that X is. And then number 6, I don't ever want to feel X again. So you're basically going to use the core belief that you've dug out, and you're going to write it in the format of these 6 statements. And it's usually going to relate to a person, but also more than one person. So there's going to be times where this belief is going to get dug out by a current situation in your life, but really this was a belief that was formed in a much earlier time of your life. Okay, so there's multiple people that might fit the statements, and as I like, I'm not going to say there's a right or wrong way to do it. The point is that you're trying to identify the core belief, and these 6 statements will help you figure out whether you have actually got the core belief. Because if you have, when you're writing these statements, it's really going to hurt. Like, it's going to absolutely hit the core of your soul is what it feels like. It's savage. But once you've got that and you've extracted it, you've written these 6 statements, you then go on to the next and final stage, which is where you reframe this belief. Okay, so this will be stage 4. You would ask the following questions. So number 1, is this statement true? Is this belief true? Almost all the time it's not true. There might be elements of truth, but it's not as black and white as we make ourselves believe that it is. So you say, is this true? Question 2, are you sure? Because if you're tempted to write, yes, it's true, like, are you sure? And really pull this apart from all angles. Look for evidence in your life that contradicts this belief, right? If one of yours is, when I trust people, they leave, then you'll find times in your life where that's not always been true. It's not 100% certain or fact. And so you're basically trying to disprove this belief, trying to diffuse some of its power. And then the next question you would ask is, without this belief, who would I be? Okay, so you're imagining a world where this isn't limiting you, right? It's not in between where you are and where you want to get to. That belief is not there anymore. Now, who would you be without this belief? How would you act? How would you show up in relationships, in business, in wealth, in finances, in everything? Okay, who would you be without this belief? And then the final question, not really a question, but what you're essentially doing is you're flipping this belief, and I'll explain what I mean by this, but you're flipping it 4 ways. So to flip the belief, let's take this example. The belief is, I can't bring the people I care about back when they're gone. So in that belief, we've got me, I can't, right? I'm in that. And then we've got a subject, so the people I care about. So to flip it, the first flip is you flip the I and the subject around. So it will become, the people I care about can't bring me back when I'm gone. Okay, so the belief is, I can't bring the people I care about back when I'm gone. The first flip is flip me and the subject. So it becomes, the people I care about can't bring me back when I'm gone. And when you write it like this, a lot of the times that will create a real epiphany moment where you're like, oh my God, I realize the mirror side of this playing out in my life as well. It's not just other people to me. It's often I will mirror, like we project out things we believe internally, and you will start to have some quite profound realizations about previous things that have happened. And again, this is really going to start to help diffusing the belief to a much deeper level. All right, so that's the first flip. The second flip is, it becomes not I and subject, not subject and I, but I and I. So it will be, I can't bring myself back when I'm gone. Now, sometimes this won't actually make grammatical sense, but again, the point is that you're reframing and you're thinking about it from a different perspective. And a lot of the times this will again create some sort of epiphany, some sort of aha moment about ways that you've been with yourself in the past. And then the final flip is subject subject. Okay, so it will be, the people I can't the people I care about can't bring themselves back when they're gone. Again, it might not always make sense grammatically, but it's looking at it from a different perspective. Okay, so just to recap, I, subject, subject I, subject, subject. That's the 4 flips that you would do of that statement. And then to like wrap this up and to reframe this belief, what you now would do as a final step is you write the belief in a positive light. So instead of, I can't bring the people I care about back when they're gone, you would write something like, I can let go of the people that I care about when it's time, because nothing in life is permanent. I appreciate the time with the people that I care about when I have it. I will always be okay no matter what happens. I can be grateful and appreciate everything that I have in life, etc., etc. Right? You're basically reframing this belief in a way that is more empowering and is more positive. Because if you can't always bring people that you care about back when they're gone, like you can't force someone to do something, but the fact is you can create a more empowering belief in space of this core belief that's been driving everything and running the show in your subconscious, well, for me, for the last 3 decades. Okay, so that's the process. Now I'm going to explain how to dig. As I say, this is the most important part by far, because if you go through this and you haven't got the core belief, you haven't found it, then it's not going to have the same impact. Like you've got to get to the absolute root of one of these big bastard thorns, and then if you can get that out, it's really going to change you, and you will feel a difference. You do feel a difference. So do you remember that I said that when you find the emotional tug, right? So someone says something, or someone does something, or something happens, or you have a thought, whatever it is, and it creates a sensation within your body, right? A little anxiety flutter in your heart, or your stomach drops a little bit, or you feel that emotional tug. That's the beginning of the thread. And the way that you would begin to pull the thread or dig into the thread is you start to write down, um, first of all, what was the thought or what happened that made you feel that way. And then you're looking for judgments and meanings, right? So what does it mean that so and so said this thing? And when you begin digging into these judgments and meanings, you'll begin to notice that the meanings that we create relate to the beliefs. So if you had one that say related to money, it might be like, I'm not going to have enough money to pay for an emergency bill this month, and I felt fear or anxiety within my heart. What does it mean if you don't have enough money? Well, it means that I'm going to fall behind on my bills, and it means that I might not be able to pay my rent. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, if my rent, it means I'll be without a home. Right, well, what does that mean? Well, if I'm without a home, it means that I'll have no security. I'll be vulnerable. I'll be alone. I'll be this. I'll be that. Okay, well, what do all of those things mean? What would it mean, if you were homeless on the street? Well, it would mean that I'd failed in life. I'd not achieved what I set out to, and you get the point. You can dig, 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 and what you're looking for when you're doing this process is the moment you hit that core belief, it's going to be like a sword in the chest. And the closer you get to it, the more it's going to start to hurt. And the more your mind is going to be like, what are you doing? Like, don't go there. You know what happens when we go there. It's awful. Like, don't. And it's going to start trying to divert you back. It's going to distract you. Come up with another statement. Think of something that's unrelated, and you'll start to feel less emotional. You start going away from it, but you've got to pull yourself back. You've got to go back to, okay, well, what was the last thing you said where it was really starting to get very uncomfortable, where it was really hurting you, where you were feeling yourself welling up? Okay, and if you can go back to that point again, keep digging from there. And when you eventually hit that one core belief, as I say, it's going to be like a sword in the chest. You're just going to break down. You're going to be an inconsolable wreck for anything from like 2 minutes to, I don't know, 60 minutes longer. Like, it's pretty savage. It's kind of like you're hitting and you're spearing, you're bursting something inside of you that's been held back for years, decades. And that's the core belief that you've been protecting this whole time within yourself. That's the thorn, the big thorn, that you never go there. And when you go there and you find it, it hurt. You will relive the most pain that you've ever felt in your life. It's brutal. But you need to go through this if you want what's on the other side of that. If it's because it'll be limiting you, it'll be limiting an area of your life in some way, because you can never go there. Now you're going there for the first time, and when you go there, you pull it out. You pull it out, you can reframe it, and then it's no longer going to control you. You can finally, trust someone that you want to be close to, because you no longer believe that when you trust people, they leave, right? This core belief is no longer running the show. So that's how you dig. There's a number of different ways to dig. You can either do just freehand, so you're just writing about what's coming up and what you're feeling. There's another way, which I use most of the time, is I'll do bullet points around the start of the thread. Example bullet points might be things like, I'm going to dive in halfway through this thread, but you might, for example, say, I can't protect the people that I love. And then you might get to, I'm not strong enough to protect the people I love. And then, only a real man could save the people he loves, and that's not me. That one, like when I wrote that one, I put a star beside it, because that was like ooh, okay, that hurt. That was getting a lot closer. So I've kind of marked, right, come back to here if I end up going off down the garden path. The people I love can't count on me. If the people I love don't want me, it means I'm worthless, etc., etc. So I'm writing these statements, and what I'm doing is I'm seeing what hurts. Okay, I'm like, okay, that one didn't hurt as much, so let's write another one that's like, When I can't protect the people I love, they realize I'm worthless. Not as much. I don't deserve to be loved. Okay, that one hurt a bit. And so you're digging to find it. And when you eventually get to the core of it, um, the core of it, I can't believe I'm sharing some of this on YouTube, but the core of that thread ended up being I hurt people and that's why they leave me. And when I said that, that was like, I can still feel it now, but that was like a sword in the chest. And that was the moment of, I can't believe that shit's been running the show, in my subconscious for 3 decades. So that's the point. Like you're finding these giant thorns, and they will hurt so much when you get to the core. Another thing that I've done as well, so beside the freehand, beside the bullet points, there's also, you can jump in character. So what that means is that if you are pretty sure where the root of the belief comes from, so for me, a lot of them are being a 7-year-old kid trying to comprehend and deal with the fact that he doesn't have a family anymore, and then trying to learn in the few years after that how to become enough of a man to care for his mum and his younger brother. Right, that was me as a little kid. And so a lot of the beliefs that I formed from that period, again, have been shaping my life and everything since then. But if you jump in character, like go back to when I was a 7-year-old kid and write it from that perspective, it will often help you connect right to the core, like right to the thing that started it, a lot easier. Right, what would you say, what would you think, what would you feel, and just start freehanding as if you were, for me, that kid again. Music as well. So I'll listen to, like, I'll just put on some emotional music, things like emotional film scores, stuff like that, stuff that's moved you in the past, makes it a lot easier to access this kind of stuff and find it and pull it out. Because I've never found it easy to just kind of like, be emotional. And well, that's one of my thorns that has come out, is like, when I show my emotions, I lose, what was it? When I show my emotions, I lose the honesty and respect of people I care about. Like, fuck, okay. Didn't realize that was in the background. I knew that I, didn't show emotions very easily, but didn't realize that was running the show. And then another final point on this is, a lot of the times we will project, we will mirror onto an external person or situation, and that is a clue that's often the start of a thread. So one that came up for me recently was, someone said something to me that I felt was dismissive. And I was like, well, why does it matter if someone's being dismissive? And this is, again, meanings and judgments, right? Follow the meanings and judgments. So the meaning and judgment that I put on it was that when someone's dismissive with me, it means they're disrespecting me. All right, well, what does that mean? Well, if they're disrespecting me, it means they don't value me, and it means that they don't see me as an equal. They don't see me as important. Okay, well, why does it mean that? Well, because, and then I was like, because when I do that to other people, that's what it means. I was like, shit. Okay. That now helps me see a lot. And so when I said earlier that you will come face to face with everything you've ever done and everyone you've ever hurt and all of this kind of stuff, it's because we mirror a lot of the time the core beliefs that are driving us. Like it's always, I mean, it's yin and yang, right? However you put it, it's the light and the dark. It's the two sides to the same coin. Like, we project what's going on internally. It's all connected. And so being able to suddenly see, oh, okay, there's been times in my life where the core belief about myself that fuels things has caused me to be a certain way with other people. And you pull this stuff out, there's going to be hard truths to face. I mentioned earlier, you will question whether you're a bad person, and you need to dig these beliefs out and reframe them. And you need to make some apologies to people, things that you've done where you've not treated people fairly, or not treated people, in that case, with respect, and so on and so forth. So the mirror is a brilliant way to recognize that there's something going on behind the scenes, because my reaction to that specific situation, it was over the top, right? It was not a warranted reaction given the situation. And so that over the topness was the clue to go, something's going on behind the scenes here that's more than the surface level of what's happening. I hope that makes sense. Obviously, I'm not going to be specific in a video, but that when you're overreacting to things, or there's like too much emotional charge in a situation for it to be warranted, that's often projecting. That's often us mirroring something internal outwards onto someone else or onto a situation. And if you can recognize that, then there's a thread. There's where you can begin digging and you can find that big thorn that is driving behavior underneath. So that's the process. And I'm guessing by now you can probably understand why it takes a monstrous amount of courage to go through this process. But it's seriously worth it, because this whole idea of being where you are, being where you want to get to, but then these giant thorns being in the way and holding us back. And the thing that we really have to grasp about this is that actions create results. And this is such a fundamentally important concept, because if we're saying that we want something, right, that's up here and we're here, and in between where we want to get to and where we are, there's this giant thorn where we will never go there, because whenever we press it, it hurts too much. So we pull back and we have these coping mechanisms in place to make sure that we don't go there. Well, different actions create different results. And so when you ask yourself the question as you're going through this process and you say, who would I be without this core belief? What would I do? How would I act, etc.? Well, those are the actions. Like, that's the person that you need to be if you want to create the result. And if the thorn is what's stopping you from being that person, from taking those actions, then as long as the thorn exists, you can never create the result that you want, because your actions will be different because of the thorn. Different actions lead to different results. And so you've got to ask yourself, well, if you had complete belief and trust and faith that you would get there, and when you take the thorn out, you pull the thorn out and you get to the edge of that cliff, and it's time to let go, right? To stop fighting, to actually let yourself trust someone that you care about, to let yourself fall in love, to let yourself go take that leap in business that you know you need to take, but you're too scared because what if it goes wrong? Well, without the thorn, you're free to take the leap. Now, don't get me wrong, it still takes courage and bravery. It's still hard, but at least you're able to do it without being completely prevented by this thorn that's within you, this core belief that's driving your life, that's running the show behind the scenes. You've got to be free to take the leap when the time comes. And so we have a decision to make. We've got to decide, do we really want what we say that we want? Because it's gonna take going through the most pain that you felt in order to get there. If the thing that's limiting you is a core belief that's been driving your life, you have to face it at some point. There's no two ways about it. So you've got to decide, do you really want the thing that you say you want? Because if you're not willing to go through the fire, you're not going to get there. You'll be living your whole life constantly making progress, pulling back, making progress, pulling back, always hitting the same resistance and playing out the same pattern again and again. You've got to face it, or you've got to let go of going after what you want. Just say, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm not brave enough. I'll give up. I'll let it go. Now, I don't know about you, but even saying that, I'll give up on going after what I want in my life, like that I can't even, it makes me sick. I'm like, no way. I will go through whatever the hell I have to go through to get there, because I know how important it is. So whatever it takes, I'm all in. I'm going for it. And you've got to have that level of commitment. And without that, it's not going to happen. So to become truly limitless, we have to face the deepest, darkest fears within us. We have to overcome the biggest things, the traumas, the most pain that we've ever felt in our life. We've got to go there. We've got to uncover it. We've got to reframe it. That's the journey, if you want to call it that we're all on, as soon as we decide that we want to create more in our life than what we have at the moment. You know, a great, loving, caring relationship with a partner who's, you know, our life partner. We're a team together, right? If you want that, well, you've got to go through the fire. If you want a business that's 10x the revenue that you're at right now, that's fulfilling and enjoyable with a great team, well, if you're not there at the moment, because every time you try and scale, you keep pulling back because you're scared of investing the money, or, you know, growing your team, or bringing on more overheads. Well, if you don't go through the fire, if you don't face these things, you're not going to get there. It's the same thing. So the final thing you've got to keep in mind is that character is forged by fire, right? We all say that we want the traits. We want the resilience. We want the determination. We want the strength, right? We want to be caring. We want to be kind. We want to be patient. We want the desirable traits. But so few of us are willing to go through what we need to go through in order to build those traits, because they're trained. It's like working a muscle. You need to be tested. You need to be challenged in order to build that trait. If you want to be resilient, you've got to be tested and pushed past your breaking point again and again. If you want to be patient, you've got to be put in situations where your patience is tested more than you can possibly endure. And you're feeling more impatient than you've ever felt. And you're like, oh, I can't take this. But you've got to train that patience. If you want to be caring, if you want to be empathic, understanding, compassionate, you've got to be put in situations where these characteristics are tested. That's the point. And so if you can keep in mind that the character is forged by fire, what it means is that when you're going through the fire, when you're going through the hardest time that you've ever been going through in your entire life, and you want to give up, and you don't know if you can take it anymore, well, this is what you need to get to where you want to get to. And this is why you're going through this right now, because you were brave enough to say, I want more in my life. I want to achieve more in my life. And that achieve, like, what that looks like to you. It can be achieve a perfect relationship, a loving family. It can be achieve a great business. It can be achieve financial freedom. It can be achieve travel and friendship and whatever, right? You have a vision for what you want, and you were brave enough to decide that's what you wanted and go for it. Well, that's now why you're going through the fire, because you're being forged into the person who is capable of creating that life. Keep that in mind, no matter how hard it gets. And the harder it gets, the better. The more you will come out the other side, the stronger you will be. Remember this, and you will get there, no matter how long it takes. Right? You've got to believe in yourself, because you've got this.